Hi everyone, it's Mark again from simplifyinglife.com.au, counsellor in Queensland, Australia. And today I'd like to discuss a topic based on a conversation I had with a client the other day, actually. What we were discussing is that she wasn't feeling too great. There were all sorts of things happening in her life. And what she found is that now that that was the case, and it had been for quite some time, she found it really hard to focus on the, well, good stuff, whatever you want to call that, again. So whatever happened, she seemed to interpret everything that happened in her life in light of all the bad stuff that had happened so far. So she said, I find it really hard to think positive things anymore. I can't seem to find the bright side of life anymore, even though she knew logically that there was plenty of bright stuff still there. You know, she's got lovely kids, etc. Good life in a sense, on the outside. It made me emphasize a point to her that I've found with many clients and also have learned in my studies as well, is that we tend to have this bias towards negative stuff in our brain. Why? Well, it's probably a survival strategy, and it takes a bit more of an academic explanation to go deeply into that. But put simply and put in popular terms, our brains are more wired to avoid danger and to stay alive, so to survive than actually to thrive, which makes our brain more focused on avoiding danger and repairing troubles than it is on finding the good life and looking at all the good stuff in life. Now, the percentages, I don't know if they're true or not, but I always say, look, it's a kind of a 60-40 division in a sense. So 60% of our brain power goes into keeping us alive and stopping us from getting into trouble and repairing things and preventing things, always focusing on danger and fear. And about 40%, but again, numbers don't really mean much in this realm, would be focused on thriving. So 60% surviving, 40% thriving. That's okay, and that's actually quite healthy to have, because you wouldn't want to run under a bus or drink stuff that you shouldn't be drinking or get involved in an altercation with someone if you don't have to. So it's good to have that part of your brain functioning well. On the other side, the downside to that one is that when you start to fall prey to or become victim of negative thinking, of negative events in your life, it seems that 60-40 balance starts to topple over a bit more, because it's already heavy on the negative side. It starts to go a little bit more skewed, sort of 70-30. And then if nothing really happens, or if you're not able to rectify the situation, it sort of seems to topple a bit more, sort of 80-20, 90-10. And in some extreme cases, it might be 100% negative. And people will find themselves in a situation when apparently nothing seems to make them feel good anymore, or they can't get themselves out of trouble. That's obviously clinical stuff where people might become really depressed, have really strong anxiety for life, existential anxiety in a sense, or all sorts of other mental ill health symptoms. Now, what to do about that? Well, there's loads, and that will take a bunch of videos. But today's video is more about creating the awareness around that, and making you understand, or helping you understand anyway, that it's not fun, but it's kind of normal to do that. Once you're in trouble, it's easier for your brain to keep focusing on that trouble and to make it more, and to focus all your senses on more of that trouble, than it is to get out of it. So once you're stuck in a groove of negative thinking and negative emotions, it's quite easy to stay in that groove unless you very deliberately, very consciously, and with effort, get yourself back out. Why is that? Because your brain likes easy. Your brain's quite lazy, so it'll follow a pattern that seems the pattern to go. Whether it's a good one or a bad one, doesn't matter. The pattern that's most easily accessible is the one that your brain seems to follow. Again, lots of science behind that. I'm just using the popular version here, so excuse me for not putting all the nuances in. But what you want to do about it is realize that there is a tendency for our brain to get absorbed, or to get absorbed with and get completely focused on the negative stuff once a lot of negative stuff happens. And it's normal, not fun, but it's kind of normal. What to do about it? Like I said, loads, but that takes it too far. Just realize, I think for a lot of people, realizing that the perspective they have in life at that point in time when they find themselves depressed, heavily stressed, or heavily anxious, very anxious, is probably not entirely the correct one. And I say that with a lot of respect because I respect everyone's opinion, but it might well be that our brains have actually, on purpose, but not with malintent, now focused us and very strongly focused us on seeing the negative stuff, on not seeing the good stuff anymore. Now, that's not a bad thing per se, but once you realize that, you can also start to wonder that what you are interpreting from that point forward, or what you are seeing, hearing, feeling, touching, tasting, smelling, is actually entirely correct. So are your assumptions about what someone says correct? Are your ideas about what you're seeing correct? Is what you're seeing actually what you're really seeing? Or do you read things into what you're seeing? Is what you're hearing actually what you're hearing? If someone says something to you, is that actually what they're saying? Or do they mean it entirely different than what you're interpreting now? When your brain is in that, well, everything's bad and nothing's going to get better mode, it's really easy to start interpreting what comes in through your senses in that everything's bad and nothing's going to get better mode. So understanding that will help you to put your thoughts and feelings, interpretations under the microscope. Your senses bring the information in. It's your brain that does something with it. And if you don't like what your brain is doing with it, then there's room for change. But initially realizing that it might be your brain that's making you feel bad, not necessarily you, the person, but that's just a mental groove, neuroscientific groove or neuroscience groove that keeps going on, then we have the power to change it, because otherwise we might feel out of control. So take that one on board. Again, as always, more than happy to answer questions about that. Marc, M-A-I-C, @simplifyinglife.com.au is the email to write to. I'll keep producing videos. I enjoy them. And I hope to get in a conversation with you, as there's lots to be said about this. And I'm really adamant that that my task, I'm saying that wrong, I'm really passionate about helping people to feel better. I think it's a good thing. There's too much stuff going on in the world. So in any way, shape, if I can help, let me know. And I'll keep producing videos with interesting topics, I hope. Have a good one.